After 12 years in the wilderness, the Pandava brothers emerged from the deep forests with their royal garments reduced to rags. Every step out of the dark tree line into the sun was a visible physical struggle against a decade of exhaustion. But their punishment was entering a new phase. They now faced the 13th year of their exile, a period known as Agyatvas. This was a mandatory year of hiding, where they had to vanish into the general population, leaving no trace of their royal identities. Their enemies engineered a mathematical trap. After 12 years, they enter this 13th year, but if recognized for even a single second, a red reset loop triggers, forcing them to start the 12-year exile over from day one. Winning this year meant surviving without their weapons or their status. Success depended entirely on their ability to suppress their instincts while being hunted by an entire continent. Back in the capital, their cousin Duryodhana had mobilized a surveillance operation. Thousands of spies were scouring every village, forest, and city, hunting for any sign of the five brothers. To survive this dragnet, the Pandavas adopted a counterintuitive strategy. Instead of retreating deeper into the unpopulated wilderness, they moved straight into the borders of King Virat's Matsya kingdom. Hiding in a crowded palace meant surrounding themselves with thousands of observing eyes, guards, merchants, and nobles who could spot a slip in their behavior. To evade a surveillance network this tight, they had to actively become the exact opposites of the legendary warriors they actually were. They achieved this through psychological inversion, taking on roles that directly contradicted the skills and traits that made them famous. Take the eldest, Yudhishthira. He was a righteous emperor who lost his kingdom in a rigged game of dice. To hide, he became Kanka, a lowly servant whose sole job was to entertain the king by rolling wooden playing dice. Then there was Bhima, the most physically destructive warrior alive. He became Vallabh, a humble cook, spending his days with his head bowed, quietly stirring boiling cauldrons in the royal kitchens. Arjuna, the hyper-masculine archer who struck fear into opposing armies, transformed into Brihannala, a eunuch who taught delicate dance routines to the kingdom's princesses. Maintaining these roles required a daily, silent suppression of ego. Every hour spent as a servant added to an internal pressure that threatened to break their cover. The youngest brothers, Nakula and Sahadeva, accepted equally steep demotions. Royal princes were reduced to manual laborers, one tending to the king's horses, the other shoveling manure as a cowherd. Draupadi faced the sharpest fall of all. Once a commanding queen, she became Sairandhri, spending her days kneeling on stone floors, arranging jewelry, and serving another royal woman. The strategy initially worked. On this pyramid of the Matsya court, the 6 data points representing the Pandavas are clustered at the bottom social tier, far removed from the ruling class. For months, they remained undetected. But this success was fragile. It depended on those in power continuing to ignore the servants around them. The moment someone with authority focused their attention on a lowly maid, the facade faced a lethal test. That test arrived with Kichak. He was the queen's brother, and the man who held the actual military power in the Matsya kingdom. Kichak developed an aggressive obsession with Sairandhri. Suddenly, the threat shifted from distant spies to a physical danger closing in on Draupadi. Kichak could act without fear of legal consequences, while Draupadi, playing an expendable maid, had no social standing to resist him. Kichak's actions forced a collision between their hidden royal identities and their current servant roles. The crisis peaked in a crowded palace hall. Kichak publicly harassed Draupadi, backing her into a corner while Bhima watched, trapped as a cook. Look at the logic tree forming in Bhima's mind. If he retaliates, his identity is exposed, and the reset loop triggers, costing 12 years. But doing nothing violates his vows as a husband and warrior. Either choice is a catastrophe. To maintain the disguise, Bhima stood in silence, physically watching the humiliation of his queen while suppressing the rage that defined him. The restraint of the Agyatvas had reached its limit. Bhima was finished with hiding, setting the stage for a reckoning in the dead of night. To see how Bhima executes his revenge without breaking cover, follow for the next chapter of the Mahabharata. Like and share to join the journey.